Welcome back, everyone, to the 12 Days of Switchmas. I'm Chris, and with me is Matthew.
Hi, guys.
And we are talking about my personal top 10 Zelda games.
No top 18 Zelda?
Well, I haven't played all 18, I'm afraid.
Now, what if one of the ones you haven't played would make it into the top 10?
Well, then it's your fault as a friend because you didn't tell me to play them.
Fair point. Well, it depends on what your top 10 is.
Yes. Well, I'll get these out of the way first. So I haven't played the DS games. I haven't played Zelda 2 very much. Not enough to put on this list. I haven't played the CDI games. Haven't played... I'm just listening, the noteworthy ones that I haven't played.
Golly.
I haven't played enough of Minish Cap to say. I mean, I played the first few hours of it, but not more than that.
That's fairly comprehensive.
Yep.
All right, I'll stop busting your chops. Proceed.
Okay. So number 10 on my list is the Oracle of Seasons / Ages. So I felt that these games are pretty thematically derivative of other Zelda titles, which is kind of a turnoff. I feel like instead of innovating, Capcom was kind of tasked with assembling a game out of existing parts. Like they were told, hey, make Ocarina of Time for the Game Boy, or Ocarina of Time's big, so make a game that has a lot of these characters and elements, so people, when they play it, it's Zelda. As a result, it didn't feel like a fresh game experience to me. Like the puzzles were good, but I wasn't really impressed enough by these games to complete them. I got about halfway through each one. So, take that with a grain of salt. And it's also been about 10 years since I played them. So, as I recall, that'll be my number 10. Yeah,
they do borrow a fair bit out of Link's Awakening, I noticed. Like the game engine and the sprites and stuff, the sound effects.
Yeah, and that's
a lot of the music.
It felt a bit different from the other times where this series will do that, where like
Majora's
you said,
Mask.
Yeah, like Majora's Mask, where you have a lot of the returning characters, but it feels like a unique world. And it wasn't able to really pull that off. Number 9, Twilight Princess. The massive amount of hype for this game would have been difficult for any game to live up to, so I can't really hold that against it. I feel like how it came to be was that after Wind Waker got such a volatile response from fans, Nintendo kind of freaked out and tried to give fans what they thought that fans were shouting for. It's like Lord of the Rings or something, where it's like a bunch of orcs or a bunch of were they bokoblins in this game? The green guys?
Yeah, they were bokoblins. I mean, there was like a fat bokoblin on the boar or something. I think that may have been a moblin, but yeah, it was mostly bokoblins.
Yeah, but they looked a lot more gritty and scary than bokoblins in other games have,
Yeah, I mean, do you think the art style was a mistake then in Twilight Princess?
Yeah, I think it got a little too realistic. They abandoned too much of the cartoonish approach. It was kind of like Ocarina of Time, except it felt grainy. It felt like there was a grittiness to it that was lacking some sort of soul. They tried to make it as detailed and realistic as possible, which I guess wasn't a terrible thing, but what do you think about that? I
mean, I have some issues with Twilight Princess, but I like the art style because I feel like if we gotten Wind Waker and then we gotten Skyward Sword, with no Twilight Princess, I feel like a lot of people would wonder, what does an Ocarina of Time kind of game look like updated? And Twilight Princess kind of delivered that. And, if you look at Zelda art, in the Hyrule Historia book or even some concept art and stuff, I mean, it's pretty impressive art that they have for this game. There's really a lot of thought that goes into the costume design and the weapons and the monsters and stuff. So I think I can appreciate that for what it is. From a personal perspective, I prefer the look of Wind Waker or Breath of the Wild especially.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, my opinion of the art style in Twilight Princess is positive.
Okay. I think the bottom line, though, is that it just turned out to be kind of an empty and soulless game for me. The characters aren't memorable, the story's really nothing new, and the cutscenes tend to be kind of dreary, and the color scheme in the game is kind of drab.
Yeah.
That said, Midna was a really good character, and there's some neat dungeons in it. And I did like the combat system a lot. I felt it was nicely improved with a lot of variety of attacks that you get, which I thought was pretty cool. Number 8, Skyward Sword.
There it is.
Yeah. It's more colorful than Twilight Princess, but it's got its own share of shortcomings. The imperfect controls were a big deal for me. That you can't really rely on the controls always working for you. The soundtrack was forgettable, even though they used live instruments for it. The composition was just kind of dull, and most of the songs I couldn't remember if my life depended on it. And of course, the extremely wordy Fi make it kind of a chore to play. The overall cast of characters is more memorable than Twilight Princess, though. And I'd say the visuals are more sumptuous. I kind of wish it had a better overworld to explore, and they'd been able to make the controls more responsive and accurate. Because there's some good ideas in the game, like you said in your list, I do like the athletic Link. I overall like the item upgrade system, except I think it could have been done a little better. It's a pretty good game, but could have been better.
You know, it's funny. We disagree on this game enough to have a bit fight about it.
Yep.
And yet we place it in the same ranking for our Zelda list.
Interesting.
We both have it at number 8. Maybe I just like the series a lot more than you do.
No, this is my favorite game series as well, so...
Oh, okay. Maybe I just like the spectrum of games in the series.
Maybe.
Overall more... Alright, sorry, continue.
You enjoy life more than I do. Alright, so...
I rank life 10 out of 10.
Number 7. The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past.
Oh man, here come the boots. The boots and the tomatoes.
It's an oldie but a goodie, but it's got some great dungeons. But, honestly, it's missing a lot of things that make the later games really good.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and in retrospect, I think it actually makes it less of a recommendable game. Like, obviously, it's still a great game, but if I'm thinking this from the perspective of, okay, here's someone who's never played a Zelda game before, what game would I tell them to play? I wouldn't tell them to play Link to the Past, because there's other games that represent the Zelda series better, and that are more accessible.
See, that's interesting, because a lot of people would pick exactly Link to the Past for that specific thing. In fact, Sarah, before we got married, I said, all right, Sarah, I'm ready to get married, but you gotta beat a Zelda. Because, that's just the way I roll, folks. You gotta love it or leave it. And she decided to love it. And then she played Link to the Past and did not love it. So, it was frustrating to her. I don't know if this is because Sarah in particular likes kind of more story-driven games like RPGs, or Phoenix Wright would be a great example. But watching her play and seeing her struggle with certain things, it kind of reminded me that Link to the Past it's got very good gameplay, but it doesn't really have that extra bit of emotion and charm that a lot of the series is known for. It's got some of it. You turn into a bunny. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I feel like directly compared to another game, such as A Link Between Worlds, that game made a lot of excellent refinements to Link to the Past. And
you're ranked Between Worlds higher. Interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, yeah. But since the two games are so easy to directly compare, like, it shows how solid the foundation was that you could build a new game on top of it, kind of. But I just felt like Link to the Past is a little lacking in the character department. I kind of criticized Twilight Princess's characters, but Link to the Past characters are almost non-existent. There's like Sashara Harasha, and that guy, he's like, has a few lines, but he's hardly a character, right? And he's one of the most prominent characters.
There's Aghanim, who's pretty much Zelda. I mean, he's pretty much Ganon, not Zelda. No, this game's not that crazy.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I think part of it is the translation was still kind of stuck in that early Nintendo era, kind of before like Earthbound and stuff kind of came and freshened up things.
That said, the game does succeed at being atmospheric and alluring in a way that few other games of its time were able to be. The very beginning of the game, is really atmospheric. It's like raining, and you feel like you're thrust into this mystery, which is a really cool feeling. And the game has a number of moments a number of settings that are able to do that. Number 6, Link's Awakening.
Oh. Yes. You're waiting for a response from me to be like, what?
Yeah, kind of.
Start throwing stuff at.
You seem more demure.
I'm very demure.
Yep.
That is an adjective that describes me well.
So, Link's Awakening was ahead of its time. It had a lot of creative storytelling elements that I'm a big fan of. But some of my favorite things about it are things that didn't age so well, I think. Like, it has this off-the-wall dialogue.
Oh, I love the dialogue.
I know,
it's so weird.
I know you do. It's weird, but like, I'm still kind of thinking of this from trying to think of this from like the mind of someone who hasn't really played it before. Like, if someone sits down with this game,
for it.
Yeah, if they don't have nostalgia for that, I don't think it really works that well.
It's nutty.
We were talking about Link's Awakening not too long ago, and we looked up like the bucket mouse and some of the other dialogue stuff. And
it's bucket mouse.
I was thinking like, this is kind of weird.
Well, it works a little bit, at least with like the a foreign setting and stuff, right? That's what I tell myself.
I guess.
The dreamlike world. Like, what's going on? This place is strange.
I guess. But
I guess.
On top of that, though, I feel like the game had some kind of obscure objectives. Like when I played the game, I've played through it at least twice. I think 3 times. And there's some kind of obscure objectives here and there. I would get lost a few times and not really know where to go.
I was stuck at the very beginning when you pushed the urchin with your shield.
Yeah.
I remember being stuck on that when I got the game for Christmas in 1993. I remember that, and so I was 8 at the time, and that got me stuck. And the sprinkling powder on the on Terran the raccoon got me stuck. After that, though, I think I did okay.
Yeah, not that it's like a super difficult game, but I just feel like some of those things are a little unclear. That's not a huge complaint, but the game has a bunch of fun puzzles, and like I really like the chain of side quests that it has, which, like you were saying, kind of establishes what future games will do with side quests in a lot of ways. But I think the world's a bit smaller than most other Zelda games. There's not really as much of a sense of exploration. You kind of get to know the area really well, which is neat. But my main approach for this list is which games would I recommend to somebody else, and from that perspective, it's kind of hard to recommend. I mean, recommend as highly as these other games. It's still a great game. Number 5, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. I'm saying it. A Link Between Worlds is the best handheld Zelda game. Its world is jam-packed with stuff to find. It's got a perfect amount of story to keep you interested, but not bore you stiff. And the soundtrack is a lovely arrangement of tunes, old and new. It does a lot of inspiration from Link to the Past. That's true, but I think it kind of does a lot of things better than Link to the Past. I think the overall gameplay is tight. The energy meter is great. I think it's definitely an improvement from the magic meter and the quantities of different items. I think that it's actually a great game for newcomers to the series to start with. So anyone who's never played a Zelda game and they want to play a Zelda game, I think that's a great recommendation if they can play that game.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Okay, number 4, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
Wind Waker.
Yeah, it's the kiddie game that everyone wanted to hate, but it became a timeless classic instead. It's gorgeous. I think the visuals still look great today. The overworld is brilliant, and it's a lot of fun to explore. I think it got a lot of flack for that. Like when it came out, a lot of people were complaining like, "Oh, it's too good pain in the butt to sail everywhere." But I completely disagree. It's like a refreshing, calming experience. Like, yeah, it's a little annoying to change the course of the wind, maybe. But aside from that, the sailing's really fun, and the world is really a treat to explore. Another complaint that people had was the tingle, like...
Oh, yeah, the Triforce pieces.
Yeah, but I didn't mind that so much because I was exploring the world the whole time, so it wasn't like...
I had the same experience.
I can see if some people weren't as big in the exploring and they come straight to it and think, oh man, there's this giant mountain of things I have to collect, but...
Yeah.
That's not really how you play the game.
Yeah, I think, people experience Zelda games differently. I've read from people that just absolutely hate Majora's Mask because everything went wrong for them, Like they stumbled around the swamp and then they found the spider house and they managed to barely clear it out, but on the 3rd day, you can't get your reward. So like that all sullies the experience for them. Something like Wind Waker, if they're not into exploring the map and they're just in it for the dungeons and the story, all of a sudden they hit that roadblock of having to find the Triforce pieces. It's not as enjoyable. But for me, I was stretching out this game as much as I could. I was exploring everywhere. I was taking my time.
Yeah.
By the time I got to the Tingle Map stuff, there were several places that I'd already had taken a look at, so I could warp to them easily. I knew where they were, and I didn't have a problem with it myself. I mean, a little problem with it, but not much. Just digging them up took a little bit of time, but finding the maps was fun.
Yep.
And you need money. If you don't have enough money, you gotta go get the money.
Oh yeah. So the money in Wind Waker actually seemed a little less useless than in some other Zelda games because you had that sink to dump it into.
Yeah, you had a much bigger wallet, and you had all the maps, of course, like you said.
Number 3, Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is the best possible example of how to make a quick sequel using another game's assets, yet create something completely unique and amazing. It does not feel like a sequel to Ocarina of Time. It feels like its own game. Which I think is probably one of the best things you could say about it, because it only had maybe a 1 to 2 year development period.
Very small development window. Yeah, it was around like a year and a half or something, I think.
Yeah. I would say it's the least straightforward Zelda game. Like we've been saying, there's some aspects of the intro that are obtuse and confusing that I think probably could do with some change. And the save system is a little punishing, like you just said. You can end up in situations where you spend a lot of time doing something and then you lose it all for some reason. It also affords the game kind of this feeling of...
It gives some tension to it.
Tension, yeah.
These timed elements, right?
Yeah, so you feel like there's consequences to your actions. Like time actually is a valuable resource. So the whole point of the game, the whole like theme of the game is time, because you're redoing this 3-day period over and over again. And I think the way that the save system works makes you very sensitive to the importance of time. And did you play Majora's Mask 3D?
I did not. I played just like a short demo of it at PAX South, but from what I hear, they kind of streamlined a few things. I think one of the sort of controversial additions is that you can now save anywhere. You can do a hard save anywhere. And they have like the Bomber's Notebook on the bottom screen and one of your sub menus. It's more it's a little clearer, I guess.
Okay.
And I think they streamlined the beginning a little bit too. Now I might be wrong on all of those. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's what they did. Even
though I rank it higher than like Link Between Worlds, which I think is a more accessible game, I think Majora's Mask is kind of hard as far as getting into it from a casual perspective. So I'm not sure that's not a game that I would quickly recommend to someone who's new to the series. But once you're into the series, it's one of the best games of the series and one of the best games ever made. The second best Zelda game is The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda.
The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
it should be sitting up there on its throne in the top 3. Triforce.
It's the best 2D game in the series. It's got this delicious sense of wonder and discovery that just can't be rivaled. That sense of discovery holds up even to today, because I only first played the game in like 10 years ago. So I had already played a lot of other Zelda games by that point, and it still had that impact on me where I felt, wow, it's a really open world that I can just discover at my own pace. That's always been what I love most about Zelda, which is why I'm so excited about Breath of the Wild. It's just so cool that you're sent into this world with nothing, and you get a simple sword. Like, that's all you got. And
you can skip the sword.
Yeah, you can.
You don't even have to get that.
which is a really good design. So I think I can imagine some people being turned off by the just the archaic look of the game, because obviously it was, an NES game. It's not got all the bells and whistles that we have today. But the simplicity of the game is brilliant. And I think we could definitely do with more games like it, which, hopefully we're getting one in a week.
Yeah.
All right, and the best game, as you've probably deduced by now, the best game of the Zelda series is Ocarina of Time. Time hasn't diminished the quality of the game. I think it's still a great adventure that's filled with great characters, soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game has been reused in pretty much every Zelda game after it. Like, there's been, like the shop theme and so many themes from that game have just come back over and over again.
Song of Time, Song of Storms. Yep. Lon Lon Ranch. They've all kind of shown up in future games. A lot of them in Majora's Mask, granted. But,
that's true.
But yeah, it's a pretty iconic soundtrack.
Yep, and it's got a large and interesting world that's a lot of fun to explore. I guess the 3DS remake might be the best way to experience it, because it's got some nicer visuals and some little quality of life improvements. It's
a good remake. I've played through it. It's faithful to the original game. It doesn't really change anything behind it. I mean, there's some very, very subtle tweaks. Largely, it just improves the visuals. I kind of wish it tweaked the music if it was going to improve the visuals as well.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Kind of weird,
because I think we saw this together where they were going to redo the music with nicer sound samples, but
for some reason the music was seen as more sacred than the visuals. I don't really get it.
Yeah.
As a musician, I understand that specific sound samples and stuff can be nostalgic. You have your chip tunes and such. But I don't know if the Nintendo 64 sound samples really have earned that degree of praise.
It's like saying, the muddy visuals with the low frame rate, we have to preserve that because that's how the original game was.
Yeah, it is like that. That's what it's like. Because it's not like it's not something that's so different that it stands on its own, like Mega Man chiptune music.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just this instrument is trying to be a French horn, but it's not a French horn.
Exactly.
This polygonal model is trying to be a tree, but it's not a tree. Let's make it look more like a tree. Let's make it sound more like a French horn.
Yeah, same principle.
that was kind of goofy with Ocarina of Time 3D. Otherwise, it is a very good remake or port or whatever you want to call it. It's got the nicer visuals. It's got some little streamlined things like being able to select stuff on the bottom screen, and just I found the game held up really well. It also includes the Master Quest, which is cool.
Yeah, so
it's a little bonus.
So that's my top 10 list, and interestingly enough, it seems that the games that I would recommend to someone who's never played Zelda before are both on the 3DS. They would be Link Between Worlds and Ocarina of Time 3D. Oh. I think those are both the best ways to get into the series in both 2D and 3D form.
Go get some 3DS, guys, if you hadn't yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you hate Ocarina of Time, let us know in the comments below. Tell us why you think it's overrated garbage.
And Matthew's also done his own top list of Zelda games. He actually reviewed all 18 of them, so you can go see his list over here.
Yep. Well, Chris, I have to say it's not a terrible list that you've presented to me. It's one that I feel is fairly agreeable.
Well, thank you.
We won't have a bit fight this time around.
Okay.
But next time, watch out. When we rank the Metroid games, there's gonna be fists flying and
blood will be spilled.
Blood will be spilled. All right, well, thanks for joining us for this day of Switchmas, and stay tuned for more days of Switchmas in the next coming days as we count down the Switch launch. Until next time, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Chris.
And we will smell your face. We will smell you.
Smell the flip side of your face.
Yes. Goodbye. There's the realtor talking about the inspector is coming. The inspector.
Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Javert is coming to look at our house. Then he's gonna throw himself off a bridge.
Just don't make him sing. Don't ask him to sing.
Don't ask him to sing. Russell Crowe's gonna sing a song. There, out in the darkness, fugitive auto-tuned.